I shall explain to you my deduction, Professor. Irene, as your victim, should have been obvious. Your henchman entering her dressing room and then killing her by knife. She was stabbed 3 times. By the wound's left, one is right-handed, the other left, during the course of which she fought back, injuring your henchman's left hand, knocking the knife out of it, and spilling her drink to the floor. Once they heard my knock, they fled the scene, for me to only find her not breathing. The police were investigating Norton, Irene's husband, as the murderer. You assumed the death threats made with newspaper clippings would have duped them into believing him the murderer. But the devil is in the detail. It was a cardstock only used in Scotland, and each letter was placed on the message a centimeter apart, which is only done by a person with an injured left hand. Am I right this far, Professor? From then on, you kept the game afoot, the World Summit, the main scene for the assassination. As Emperor Catan took the floor, there was an explosion, causing enough confusion while the Emperor would be escorted from his carriage, where you had your henchmen waiting, ready for the kill, ready to start a war you so desperately wanted. But, like always, the Queen takes pawn. Knowing his death would give you power, I stacked the cards in my favor. After deducing all of this, let me tell you what actually happened after the explosion, Professor. The Emperor was greeted by your henchmen, and ran to the carriage like in your plan, received by a man with a knife, and to his surprise, it wasn't the Emperor at all. It was in fact Watson. Watson knew of the knife and planned a reverse attack, an attack I taught him years ago, breaking his hand with the knife, injuring his left ribcage to make him incoherent, and stabbing his leg. You'll be happy to know the Austrian Emperor is safe and sound. The most interesting of all is Irene's death, wouldn't you say, Professor? Because what really happened that night was spectacular. After her performance, she grabbed a knife and fake blood from the prop shelf and proceeded to her dressing room, drowning herself and the knife in blood, drugging herself with frostoride, which would make her heart stop for only a matter of minutes, but long enough to be declared dead. That brings us to now, Professor, which means we are not alone, are we? Irene.